All right. So dinner is almost done. It was mac and cheese and beef. I put a bunch of spices in there because, like I said, I love spices. But here's the interesting part: is that nobody told us how much water to put in there. So I pretty much had to estimate how much water to put in there, and one of us is having macaroni and beef soup, and the other one is attempting to boil it down a little bit. But you know, instructions, man. Instructions are important. Uh, that's what it's all about. I enjoy macaroni just as much as the next person, but it's really nice to know how much water to put in it. So everybody except me has eaten at this point. Dog's eaten. You know, the special guest is eaten. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just boiling this down. Um, it's interesting. I've taken a few people camping at this point, and it's always it always begs the question, what are we going to have for dinner tonight? So what I like to do is I like to look at things and I like to find out what the most amount of calories in something is, and then I like to go from there. So lentils. Last night I had lentils, and again, you were there for it. The whatever it was, the whatever soup, whatever vegetable noodle thing. Um, in my opinion, it wasn't that great, but again, we're working on a budget here, so it was super cheap off Midway. Um, it was okay. It fed me, and I wasn't hungry the rest of the night. But this morning, I woke up and had some more of it, and it was just like, oh wow, this is really terrible. So, is it worth spending the extra money to have really really good food? Man, I don't know. It's sometimes you just gotta make do with what you got. And I don't know if the camera picked it up, but today's episode of Scotch on the Rocks, get it? Scotch on the Rocks? Yeah, there's a rock right here. Is brought to you by Red Label Johnnie Walker. So I have a funny story about Red Label Johnnie Walker. So I actually went in I went into the liquor store on kind of a expedition. I was like, you know what, kind of want a cheap Scotch. I'm a huge big time Scotch person. I was like, but I'm not gonna pay $50 a bottle, because let's be honest with ourselves, it's not worth not that it's not worth it, but I drink it too quick. So like, oh, you know what, and honestly, I remember the old George Thorogood song, "I Drink Alone." And in that song, he says, me and my buddy Johnnie Walker. And so I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try. So I had the Johnnie Walker Red Label, and man, oh man, I'll tell you what, this is the best Scotch that I've ever had for the price that it is. It reminds me of camping every single time. Every time all I have to do is smell it. It's like, oh man, that reminds me of being out in the woods. Just being by myself. That's so. I tried it, and I'll tell you what, man, that's some really good stuff. Highly recommend it for the price. You can't beat it. It's just smoky enough to where you're drinking Scotch, but it's not overly smoky. So I have been eyeballing this bottle of Johnnie Walker Blue Label for a long time. Like, I'm talking months. I couldn't justify it, man. $250 for a bottle of Scotch, like, man, I've had $100 Scotch, and I'm just like, well, it's whatever. It's good. So, shout out to my buddies from Idaho. I took a trip to Idaho recently and hung out with some old friends that I haven't seen in a really long time. Prior to getting there, I get a text message, "Hey man, this is what I brought for your trip." And one of my really 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 good friends bought a bottle of Johnnie Walker Blue Label. And I was like, holy God, a $250 bottle of Scotch? My God, man. He's like, yeah, I've always been wanting to try it. So I get there and we're partying it up, having a good time. I'm seeing people I haven't seen in years. So I haven't been back to Idaho, or I haven't been back to Idaho on a visiting people in about 4 years. So that night we cracked the bottle, and I have some, and I'm like, wow, this is like really 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 good. You know, it was really good. Like, it was some of the best Scotch I ever had. But was it worth $250? And the answer to that is no. And I'm glad that I got to have the experience. I'm glad that I got. Here's the thing. alcohol to me is like, what do I remember? You know, like Jack Daniels. I drank Jack Daniels when I got back from the military, and that's one of those things where it brings back good memories. You know what I mean? Well, not exactly good memories, but it brings back memories to where it's like, okay, a better time, I guess. So the Johnnie Walker has always, the first time I had it was on a camping trip. So it's always just brought back the whole wood smoke and being alone, the independent, that's what Johnnie Walker red to me is. But the blue, man, I don't know. So, I had some blue, and I ended up buying my buddy, a bottle of red, and but we had the green, and the green was okay, and you know what I mean. It was good. It was, again, I'm cheap, I'm poor. I don't make much. Obviously, I'm a public servant, so I gotta make do with what I got. But the red's where it's at for the price. You can't beat it, And yeah, so during my trip to Idaho, again, shout out to my Idaho friends. We were, gallivanting around and trying all sorts of different breweries, and I got to admit, I'm kind of a sucker for microbrews. Without sounding like without sounding stuck up, I like microbrews. I like it when a local company, gets together and says, hey, our beer can be better than, whatever else. And I've kind of switched just to that because, I respect that, I respect people who are trying to eke out a living, making beer. And I'll tell you what, one of the best ones that I had, it was what was it? It was the Viking Ship. It was Viking Ship. It was a very, very good IPA. Highly recommend it. If you're interested in going around Sandpoint and you find yourself in that area, I would highly, highly recommend going to the Paddler or the Laughing Dog, and there was one other place, but I can't remember. What was the other place we used to do trivia at? McDuff's, yes. So the Laughing Dog, the Paddler, and McDuff's. Highly, highly recommend you guys going out if you're in the Sandpoint area and checking those places out. McDuff's does trivia every Tuesday night. Absolute blast, absolute fun. You can win it. We were always the, how do I put this? We won a lot of free beer, but we never actually won the whole game. So, free beer was always our thing, But yeah, if you guys are in the Sandpoint area, and you're looking for good places, highly recommend the Paddler, McDuff's, and the Laughing Dog, man. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna stir this for a little bit more, and hopefully it'll thicken up a little bit, and we'll go from there. I'm trying to. There's some people here who aren't really interested in being on camera. I get it. It's fine. That's how it goes. So. We're going to call it for right now, and once I go to bed or, something else interesting happens, I'll get back with you guys. All right.